Welcome to the Sports Syllabus Show, your ultimate playbook for all things sports. Whether you're a diehard fan, a curious rookie, or just here for the hot takes, we've got you covered. From breaking news and game analysis to interviews and debates, we're diving deep into the world of sports every week. So grab your jersey, lace up, and let's get in the game. This is the Sports Syllabus Show. Let's go. Our first section today is playoff reactions. Our second is Bradley Hoops. Our third is college hoops as a whole. All right, Luke. Let's start with our reactions to the playoff game. Luke, what did you think of the Eagles-Commanders blowout?
Well, I think it just solidified once again that Saquon Barkley is the best running back in the league and the best player right now in the playoffs so far. He's dragged this Eagles team who's it's been him and the defense. They've been struggling with the passing game. Hurts has gotten hurt in that one game, struggled today. And their offensive line, they lost their center. And we saw that today with the pressure that Washington was bringing them. But Barkley still finds a way, and every time he gets a ball, you could think it'd be a 60-yard run or he'll juke somebody out or do something crazy. So
yeah, what I said is if you watched that first play of the game for the Eagles, you would have known how this game would have went. Yeah, Barkley they only gave the ball to him 15 times, and he had 118 yards, and that's averaging about I think 7.9, so 8 yards a carry, which is insane. And like I've been critical of Jalen Hurts because I think he's gotten carried by Barkley, and yesterday it was the complete opposite. I felt like he carried them. Even though he only threw for one touchdown and had obviously 3 rushing touchdowns, I think he carried them though because even though he only threw for 248 yards and one touchdown, but he was 20 for 28, which is very good. Mm-hmm. And when he was holding on to the ball, he wasn't just holding on to it and then getting sacked, which was the issue with him. And I think in the first round, when they played the Rams especially, I think he held onto the ball way too long. And then that in the game yesterday, we saw that just disappear. And that was a big issue with him. And I feel like once he got rid of that, you saw how good the Eagles offense is when Jalen Hurts is not even like a Pro Bowler, just a good systematic quarterback. Yeah. You saw how good and how much better the offense is for the Eagles.
Yeah. They were highlighting that on the broadcast a lot, him rolling out. I feel like I saw at least he had 8 incompletions. I feel like 5 of them were him throwing it out of bounds because there was nothing there. Yeah. And Romo was talking, or it wasn't Romo, it was
Brady.
Yeah, it was Brady. He was like, Brady has had a rough season broadcasting, but he was highlighting a good point where he was like, Hurts and some of his past years would have held on to that ball and it would have been a negative play or a sack or something like that. But it doesn't look good on TV when they're throwing it away, but it definitely shows up in the efficiency of their offense. Exactly. Especially since they're always in 4-down territory. If they can just get to 3rd and 2 or 3rd and 1, it's basically just a guaranteed 4th down.
Yeah,
for
with
them,
the tush-push, yeah. I think Barkley, the fact that they kind of showed in that game that they don't need Saquon to have these great wins and stuff in the playoffs is great for, even though I do think Philly fans are really annoying when they talk about sports and sports in general, but if I'm an Eagles fan, I'm very excited because everyone knew how good your rushing offense was, but your pass game always left stuff to be desired. Yeah. And then when you saw yesterday how both your rushing game and your passing game looked very good and very dominant.
Yeah, I mean, they made the Super Bowl 2 years ago, right, against the Chiefs, and that's what we're going to have this year. But I think this Eagles team is far superior than that Eagles team is. I just think Hurts looks a lot more confident, a lot more mature. I think even though Sanders was good, Barkley's definitely a step up from Miles Sanders. And Devontae Smith has matured. A.J. Brown's still there.
And I think a thing that people don't talk about is that defense.
Their defense is so good.
And I'm not shocked because, I was a Bears fan in 2018, and Vic Fangio was our defensive coordinator. Yeah. And then he got a head coaching job after. But that was probably one of the best defenses in the decade, I would say. And we saw how good they were that year. Yeah. And for a while, he went to Miami last year, and the defense wasn't amazing. It was okay. Yeah. So everyone was like, is he still kind of have it? And then he comes here to Philly, and he has – Miami, they didn't have any, kind of stars. Jalen Ramsey, but he's kind of been on the decline. Yeah. The Eagles have. The Eagles have basically they have a whole Georgia defensive line.
Basically, yeah.
Jalen Carter is disgusting. Yep. Nolan Smith is – disgusting. Jordan Davis. Then they have Slay. They have one of the more underrated rookies, Cooper DeJean. Even though he is a finalist for Defensive Rookie of the Year, I feel like people still didn't like realize and acknowledge how good he has been this year.
Mm-hmm.
I think before he entered the starting lineup, they allowed 187 passing yards a game, and since then it's been like 143.
Mm-hmm.
So he's been a big reason, but also like bringing back C.J. Gardner-Johnson, having a Donnie Mitchell.
Yeah, that's his name.
Is that
Yeah,
that's how you say it?
Yep.
And then I think one of their biggest signings in the offseason that people are not talking about is the signing of Braun.
Mm-hmm.
He was brought in as a special teams guy, and
he's everywhere. You watch those games, and it's like every other play he's making a tackle. I think he had 6 tackles in the first quarter.
I think it was
Commanders game.
Yeah, and then it was he also had like 6 pressures too.
Yeah,
or I think he had
absolutely destroyed the Packers. So. No, the Rams. It was the Rams. He was just everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Everywhere.
Like he's gonna make a good chunk of money. I would love to see if he goes back to the Eagles. I don't see it because of the cap spit, like the cap room. He's gonna want top linebacker money
because he's definitely playing like it right now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the thing though. That's why with these one season wonders, like that's why if I were a GM and I was looking at Sam Darnold, I would be so iffy on it because his whole career he was not the best, and then he has an amazing season. So that's what I feel. I mean, but with linebackers, it's a lot different. But like that's what I think when I'm looking at them. If I'm a GM, I'm not obviously, but that they haven't been this great their whole career, and now all of a sudden they're really good. So that's why I'm interested to see what his market's going to be like. But obviously, right now for them, it's the Super Bowl against the Chiefs, which leads us into a great segue for the next game.
Yeah.
Bills Chiefs. What are your reaction and thoughts on that?
Well, these two teams play. It's almost guaranteed to be a classic. And we had another one this time, but it came down to some questionable play calling by that Bills near the Bills team near the end. Throwing just some questionable plays. People will blame the refs on that first down play with Josh Allen, but the Bills still had a chance to win. It's not like that game was swayed by that one call. It wasn't like at the end of the game there was like a pass interference that we see all the time with the Chiefs. It didn't seem that scripted to me. There was no pass interference or no unnecessary roughness, nothing like that.
That was one of the better officiated games, I feel like.
For the Chiefs, and Mahomes really balled out. Kelsey wasn't really
Kelsey had 2 receptions for I think 18 or 17 yards.
Not really a factor. He had that one big long run at the end, which was big.
My big X factor was
Worthy.
I think he's going to be this next coming of
Tyreek Hill. Well, he was definitely motivated to play the Bills because they traded him. Yeah.
Well, they traded his pick.
But he definitely used that as motivation for sure.
And another thing I wanted to say is I got a text during the game, or like right when the game ended, that Josh Allen is a stat patter, which this will kind of carry us a little bit off topic, but it will make sense. So Josh Allen, I get, he's a stat patter. You can say that, but I don't think he is. I think Lamar Jackson is, because Lamar Jackson does great in the regular season, but in the postseason, even when they win, he doesn't look amazing. I mean, they beat a 10-6 Steelers team. Like, that's not a crazy, team. And Josh Allen in the playoffs, even though they don't win a lot, especially against the Chiefs, he still puts up amazing numbers. Like, Lamar puts up bad numbers and they lose. But Josh Allen puts up good numbers and they lose. And he can't control, like, that last play. The linebacker you saw was insanely late to react to Pirine. But they need to, like, Josh Allen can't control the defense and how they play against the Chiefs offense. So that's why it's like annoying, is like Josh Allen can't play both. He's not like Travis Hunter. He can't play both. You know what I mean? Yeah. And he can't control how the defense can't get a stop. Yeah. When they looked, that second half was all Bills, I feel like. The first half was all Chiefs. Second half was Bills. I mean, the Bills' rushing attack in the second half was really good. Yeah. So. Yeah, and people might say some bad things about Josh Allen in this game, but I mean, he made a lot of right plays, and they were just using him too, like just to get fourth downs. Like, he was every single drive. I feel like he was on fourth down, just being pushed forwards, and that's got to take a toll on somebody. But I think it's more of a testament to Reed and Mahomes. I feel like they really figured out this Bills team, this Bills defense that they've faced so many times over the years. Yeah. I feel like something's got to change over there in Buffalo for them to change up their scheme, change up something so they can figure out Mahomes. I mean, that's kind of like mission impossible, because who figures out Mahomes? But yeah, it just seems like even when
this year with the Chiefs, like their offense seemed so dead in these
Mm-hmm.
weeks, and they get to these late playoff games, especially against the Bills, and they're just Mahomes is just slinging it, looking like college Mahomes. And
Yeah, it was like playoff Mahomes is a real thing. And people like will look at the stat, like his passing stats, and be like, "Oh, he didn't do good." Dude rushed for what was it, 3
he
touchdowns?
was running all over the place.
Yeah, which was that was the X factor because on the
Yeah.
broadcast they were saying about how great the Bills. So the Bills allowed in their 2 playoff games allowed 2, now 3 after this game, but 3 opening drive touchdowns, and then on all other drives they allowed 2. So they were talking about how the Bills like coaches are the best in the NFL at adjusting in game.
Yeah.
And you kind of saw that right after I would probably say after that first drive, they kind of stopped him a little. And then especially in the second half, they stopped him for a good chunk. So I thought, all right, look, the Bills had gotten the turnover already on the Chiefs, which with the Bills, I'm big on the turnover differential with them. Usually if they get a turnover, they're more than likely having a better chance of winning a game. I mean, that's usually how it goes for anyone, but especially the Bills, who they not only do they get turnovers and create turnovers, they don't turn the ball over. But I think the thing that was different this time is, like you said, I think the Chiefs also adjusted with the Bills coaches. Like it wasn't just like once the Chiefs saw that the Bills adjusted, they made adjustments themselves. And I really think when what's his name, Bernard, that the number 47 on the Bills, when he came out of the game, I think that was when the kind of air went out of like when they kind of lost a little bit. Because we saw them kind of his replacement Elam, they just targeted him the whole game. So I think losing him, and I think also like McDermott, I don't understand why you go for 2 in that situation. Like the second time you have to, because now you're trying to make up for it. But I think you take the points. You take your points that you get. You don't want to, like, I understand. You're at the 1 yard line, but still, everyone and their mom knows it's going to be a QB sneak. So it's just like I don't understand. I think McDermott has made in some of their games in the playoffs, he's made some questionable calls, and I feel like he doesn't get enough like kind of pressure and stuff towards him when
I feel like Josh Allen covers up a lot of his like mistakes where like other coaches would be under heat a lot. For him, like he always wins in the regular season. That's like something he does, and then he hits this brick wall in Kansas City where he can't figure out Reed or Mahomes. So it's Josh Allen's definitely great enough to cover up a coach's mistakes. I mean, we've seen that over and over. And I think that's a good point. McDermott's had some questionable things down the year, and I just think for the Chiefs and the Bills, it's like kind of if you play basketball with somebody over and over and over again, you start to learn their tendencies, and it feels like this is like a holiday. We have Chiefs and Bills in the AFC Championship, so once you play a team so many times, you're just gonna figure out the tendencies, no matter what the roster is, no matter the personnel. As long as the coaching staff is still the same, the front office is still the same, I think you're gonna figure them out. I was talking to my dad, and I think this like rivalry, or if you can call it a rivalry, is a lot like the 27, like when the Warriors had KD, Clay, and all them, and they would always play the Rockets, and the Rockets, like you'd always feel like they had a chance, but then they just the Chris Paul year after before Chris Paul got hurt, they definitely had a shot, but I can see the parallels there.
Like how they're 2 really really good teams that are always talked about in the S tier of teams that are gonna win this year, and they always get matched up. But it's always the same team that comes out on top. That's what I kind of realized it as, because my dad was kind of saying that he thinks it's a lot like the Bulls and how the Bulls had to overcome. But the thing is
like the Celtics and the Pistons.
Like I don't think the Bills, though, or at least right now, I don't think there's a way, because I thought this year was their best chance.
I agree.
I don't think there's a way they overcome the Chiefs unless Mahomes gets hurt and leaves the league or the NFL.
It'll be interesting to see how he recovers, because Kelsey's definitely on his last legs. I have a feeling if they go on and win the Super Bowl, he should probably just be like, "Hey, I'm done. Like I got my third one." So, I mean, he just that's Mahomes' best friend. I mean, it's like kind of like like a duo in basketball. If you one of your best friends leaves, you kind of just have to recover somehow. I guarantee you he'll figure it out. He's one of the greatest players of all time.
Yeah, and it's not like they have good options at the tight end with Watson, and they still have and they still have a great young receiving core. Like I mean, Hopkins is older, but I'm saying like
Rashid Rice comes
Rashid Rice,
Yeah.
Hollywood Brown. You still have Hopkins,
Mhm.
so they still have a plethora of weapons.
Yeah.
But I think this Super Bowl is going to be interesting because I feel like both teams are playing at their best, which is obviously what you want to see.
Both teams peaking at the right time.
Yeah, like because with the Eagles, I didn't think they were peaking in the playoffs until yesterday when you saw the kind of diverse attack from them.
Yeah.
So that's why I think they're playing at their best.
Who do you think is going to win?
I think the Chiefs are going to win.
Yeah.
But I also want the Chiefs to win because one, I relate this a lot to when the Bulls first won their first 3. That was the first time a team has ever won 3. That's what I'm relating this to. Like, this is history, and people I feel like are not looking at that because it's the Chiefs and no one likes them.
Yeah, I agree. It'd be cool to see Saquon and Jalen Hurts get all those guys get a ring. It'd be awesome for that. But I do like history's cool to like be the witness and seeing a three-peat. Will definitely be cool. But I know America is not. Actually, it's kind of crazy because the Chiefs have been the villain all year, and
but nobody likes
Philly enough to like.
Well, like we like Philly, we just don't like the fans.
Some of the fans, they just get on people's nerves, and for the first time ever, I think for a while, the Chiefs are going to have America at their back, and it'll be interesting to see what type of turnout we have for that game because both teams are going to travel well. I feel like more diehard Eagles fans will be there, but more casual Chiefs fans. But I think more Chiefs fans will be in New Orleans. And it'll be interesting to see what type of team gets that home field advantage.
And obviously once we get closer to it on here, we'll talk about it a lot more.
Yeah.
Now I kind of want to talk about something that is on the trajectory in season.
Yeah.
College hoops, but first specifically Bradley. Big win against ISU this weekend.
Yeah.
And I want to relate this game against ISU to the game against UIC.
Yeah.
Where I felt like they pulled it out of their butt. Like they shouldn't have won that game.
Yeah, this was rough.
They shot 22% from 3 and they somehow managed to pull it out.
Yeah.
And it's very similar to the UIC game. They shot terribly, but they still somehow won.
Yeah.
And what I kind of drew from it is when I was looking up the numbers and stuff, they lost the turnover battle, but what they did is they won the free throws. And I remember earlier in the year, we were talking about how they kept on missing free throws and winning. Yeah. And now that they're hitting free throws and winning, that was big because they only missed 2. ISU missed 6, and they lost by 4. Sorry, math
that was the difference right there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Yeah. I was glad that both of us were there. Both of us were at the game. Shout out to John for getting the 15 free pizzas.
Won 15 free pizzas from Papa John's
from the promo during a break. That was pretty cool to see him on there. But it was rough. I was talking to some of my guys who haven't seen them play yet. Like, oh my gosh, this team is so good. Just wait until you see them. They're all spaced out, shooting threes, and it was like such a rough start to the game. We got down early, couldn't make a pass, and then we couldn't hit shots. And I was like, this is going to be a rough showing for all these people. It was so packed.
It was a great atmosphere. It was one of the better, I think, mid-major atmospheres you're ever going to experience.
Yeah, and they continued to struggle the whole game. Did not seem like we could get a run together. And then
we
for a little bit there, we went up 10, and it was like, oh my gosh, we have energy in the crowd. And immediately they came back, and ISU started hitting threes, and it was like, all right, well, we got a close game, a little dogfight on our hand here, and they did enough, I guess. The free throws were a big part of it. They the ISU big that they always kept going.
Yeah,
to,
35.
I can't remember his name, but they would always foul. I think they figured out late, like just like hack-a-shack him because he could not hit free throws.
Yeah,
to save his life.
And they went. I think they run through their offense through him because you saw them really early in the game trying to feed him constantly.
He's big. He was moving Jonovich around. And Jonovich is huge.
And Jonovich was playing good defense. He didn't make them. Yeah. But the guy was able to get his shots up. But Jonovich was doing a great job of contesting.
Yeah.
Which is exciting because early in the season, I felt like, or at least I was critical. I felt like he didn't play hard enough sometimes with some defense and stuff. But it looked like his switch is kind of flipped. And it's not like anyone on Bradley did. Like, we didn't have a 20.
No, it was not a standout performance.
It was
for
like
anybody.
10s, 11s.
Yeah, if it was anybody, it was like kind of like a coming out party for Jaquan Johnson, in my opinion. A lot of people in that arena probably hadn't seen Bradley play very much. They're probably like, oh, who's this backup that's playing for Duke Teen right now? And he was really good. And that 10-0 run we talked about, he was that spark that came in and started hitting shots. And, you're right, nobody had a standout performance. But, of course, we always know who's going to get it in the clutch. And, of course, he delivered. Duke Teen always seems to always deliver in the clutch no matter what the situation is. He hit that big mid-range, and his shots always look so like risky because his normal jumper is a fadeaway because he's so small.
Exactly.
And if he goes straight up, he's just going to get it blocked.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's always really fun to see them in a close game for how good they are.
And then I think another one that people aren't talking about too is Almar Atlason had a big three and then a big free throw.
Yeah.
And I felt like that was the big switch.
Yeah.
Like you said, Jaquan Johnson, which I think he did really good too.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Atlason, I mean, he only had 8 minutes and he had 5 points, but it came in a span of like 30 seconds.
Yeah, it seemed back to back, and that really got the crowd back.
That got the crowd back into it, and I think that brought us back into the game. Because like Darius Hannah only had 8 points. Christian Davis only had 10.
Mm-hmm.
Zeke only had 11. Duke only had 11. So like it wasn't. It was everyone was kind of off. But if I look at the free throws, everybody hit. Mm-hmm. Everybody was perfect except for Darius Hannah. Sorry, Darius. No hard feelings, but everyone was perfect, and that was the big difference because ISU had they were I think 5th in the country in 3-point shooting. So they were a great 3-point shooting shooting team, but they shot 10 of 34 and Bradley shot 4 of 18, which
4 of 18 is pretty bad.
Is bad. Like the fact that Bradley's usually even though they may not shoot the best, they usually end up making more threes. So the fact that they were able to kind of win the game without scoring or hitting more threes is a great sign for this team. Especially this is kind of when you find out if teams are legit or not. And like we've seen this all around college basketball, teams are getting hot, teams are getting cold now. Like we'll talk about later. But this was a big win for Bradley because now they're 9-1 in conference. They're first in the Valley, which is. I think the like, and I do have a little bit of bias, but I do think that this is probably the hardest conference or hardest mid-major conference in the country.
Yeah,
I think that you can't the not goodness skill range from top to bottom. They're all very
pretty
good.
Deep.
It's a very deep conference.
Yeah, so. Bradley can it's kind of kind of cliche to say this, but they can't really take a night off against any of these teams. Yeah. Because you get caught on on your back foot, and you're going to get beat by somebody like a Belmont or a Murray State or even an ISU. Yeah, shout out to ISU. They always seem to create a wide open corner three that just happened almost every time.
That was really frustrating considering that it was.
I feel like 5 possessions in a row.
No, and because Bradley was doing this, they were doing this zone, and they would always crash into the middle and leave the guy in the corner open for 3, and it felt like. You needed to learn that. They didn't really kind of pick up on it, which is kind of frustrating.
It kind of felt like part of the game plan because you were right. They went to that big early, and I feel like that zone took away those post-ups. So I bet you Coach Wardle was like, just gonna let him shoot. Let's see if they can shoot us out of here. Yeah. And he relied on his players. He definitely has belief because it got pretty rough there for a second, and it kind of got worried, but they pulled it out. So that's what matters.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Bradley's first in the conference, but Drake technically has a better record. Yeah. But the top 4 teams in the conference all have 3 losses. The most is 3 losses. And even then, we know UIC can compete with Bradley. Yep. Murray State, we know ISU can compete with Bradley, and they're near the bottom of the conference. So this team is this conference is great. And I think whoever comes out, even if it's not Bradley, even if it is a Drake or even if it is a Belmont or one of these other teams, they're going to be a scary team in March, and they're going to be a team that I feel like is not going to get as much love as they should. Yep. But that's what I think about this Valley, the conference as a whole.
Yeah, it's pretty deep.
And now we can kind of talk about college basketball as a whole. What teams? Because you're a Wisconsin fan, I'm an Illinois fan. So, but what teams in the country do you think kind of scare you for not only just Wisconsin, but also that could possibly win the national championship?
Yeah, tying it back to the Missouri Valley Conference we talked before we turned on the mics. West Virginia has looked really good. Yes. They have I've seen a few of their games, and they have the old Drake coach and all of the old Drake players. Yeah. And they have been playing really well, and they have a pretty good guard. What's his name? Javon Small. He's an absolute stud. Every time you watch him play, I feel like he can always get an open shot or get to the rim or anything like that, and they've been playing really well. Not a team you hear about a lot because they're West Virginia and they're not in the SEC.
Yeah, and they're not known as known as a basketball sport. School. I would say sports school.
At least for the major sports, it could be good at a sport we don't know about.
But basketball, football, baseball, nothing crazy.
Yeah, and they've been having a really good year. So,
I agree. I think another team that been playing really well is the Xavier.
Mm-hmm.
Xavier's gotten really hot. They just beat I think UConn.
UConn, yeah. UConn's 6th loss of the year.
Yeah, UConn's all the way down to 25, by the way. That's I felt like that was an expected fall off though, considering how much NBA talent.
Yeah. It's kind of hard to do it 3 years in a row.
Exactly. Like, I mean, NFL it's different because you have contracts, but in college,
especially with the transfer portal and stuff,
NIL is such a big part of college now.
Yeah.
People leave like that, like, and that's why. I mean, I know we kind of are done with Bradley, but that's why I think they're scary, is because they have all these guys that have been here for a while.
Yeah.
Another team is Vanderbilt. They beat Kentucky and Tennessee, so I think they solidified like themselves as a tournament team.
Serious SEC team. Yeah.
Yes, I just don't know where and what seed.
Yeah.
But those 2 wins. You don't. I mean, obviously, I think they still need to win. Like they have to have over 500, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I think if they have an above 500 record,
I mean, they only have like 4 losses right now, don't they? 3?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be a scary, scary team.
Yeah. I mean, the SEC is loaded. Like on here, I see what's a better conference, Big Ten or SEC.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to go with the SEC on this one. They have 10 ranked teams in the AP top 25.
Yeah.
And they have Auburn, they have Bama, they have Vandy, they have all these teams. You just rattle off and you're like, gosh, that team's really good. Like Big Ten, of course, is good.
Vandy is ranked 24.
Yeah. So like the Big Ten, of course, you're gonna like it's always competitive, but this year they only have 5 ranked teams compared to like I feel like in the past few years it was the Big Ten who had the 10 ranked teams.
Yeah, I agree.
Even with the additions of the Big Ten, they haven't seen the same success as the SEC, and the SEC is slowly becoming a really, really, really good basketball conference.
Yeah. So I agree with what you said. I do think the SEC is better. I think the talent in Big Ten is better. And I may be biased because I feel like Illinois is one of the more talented teams.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're a great, like one of the better teams. I think they have a bunch of, my thing with them is they're a really, really talented team with a bunch of great talent, but they're not a team that is worked talent together yet.
Yeah.
I mean, they're 18th in the nation. But they're 14-6. Yeah. And they've lost to Bama. They lost to Tennessee.
They've had a tough schedule.
They've had a very tough. That's why they're still ranked, and they have 6 losses because they've lost to these teams that are
Michigan State,
all these top 10 teams, and then they go to Oregon and win by 30.
Yeah. So and clearly they're good, and they're just
really
played all of the really good teams. So
they're really, really young.
Yep.
And I think that Big Ten, I think SEC is a better conference, but I think the Big Ten overall has better skill, like players and stuff like that. And I may be biased because I live in a Big Ten country, Big Ten area, but I do think that the Big Ten is worse this year. I think also last year they had a great class with Zach Edey, Terrence Shannon. Like they just had a really loaded class. Yeah. And then the SEC went upwards.
I mean, the Badgers, they're clearly really good because they're ranked 17. Yeah. And they lost to UCLA at playing at the Big Ten, playing away at the Big Ten is got to be one of the most difficult things.
Yeah, I mean, I know they lost to Illinois, but going to Illinois is one of the hardest things to do.
All of college basketball playing away has to be any conference has to be one of the hardest things in sports. I mean, we see tonight Iowa State, who's ranked 3 in the country, is not even favored against an Arizona State team that's not. Arizona team that's not ranked.
And I feel like because Arizona started off so bad, and now they're starting to pick it up again a little. People don't realize the Arizona team's good. Caleb Love is still very good. Yeah. It's not like he just disappeared. They still have, and it's Arizona. They have recruits. They have these guys. So I feel like that's another thing that people aren't looking at. Arizona wasn't that great this year. Yeah. And then another team that I think is really, really good that people are not talking about a lot is another mid-major, New Mexico. Dude, Donovan Dent. You need to watch. This dude is he's one of the best guards I think in the country. And his name, by the way, is also sick. Donovan, Dent is your last name is I
haven't seen them play yet.
Sick. Here, I'll pull up the stats. So Donovan Dent averages 19 points, 2 rebounds, 6 assists, and he's shooting 50% from the field.
What's the 3-point?
He's shooting 37.
On how many attempts? That's a big piece because you can start 30% on
He's about 1 to 2 threes a game.
Okay, that's not bad.
Yeah, he's only shot in 35 this season.
Okay.
So he doesn't shoot a lot
Yeah,
from the three.
not a shooter, I guess. Yeah.
But
he's going to the rim a lot then, probably.
Yeah, but they also have I also am a Illinois or Iona fan because my dad went there.
Yeah.
And they had a nice big Nelly Jr. Joseph, who's basically a walking double-double. I mean, he averages 13, 10, and he's a great protector of the rim. And last year, remember, all these people were hyping up New Mexico, and then they kind of flopped.
Yep.
But this year, I think they're better, and I think that this year they're more experienced. Like these guys, Donovan Dent, Nelly Jr. Joseph, they were all on the team last year, and now they have that experience in March, and they're all having their best seasons. Nelly Jr. Joseph is having his best season. Donovan Dent is having his best season. So all of these guys are having career best years, and like we were just talking about, Donovan Dent just had 34 or 35, and against UNLV, he had 34, and then 20 before, and they're in the Mountain West, which is obviously it's a great mid-major conference. It's consistent, this year with Boise State in football, but they're always a great competitive sports or conference. So I think they're going to have at least probably maybe 3 come out of the Mountain West.
Yeah.
Because UNLV is another great team. We know San Diego State's good. We know their coach especially is an experienced coach. So that's the Mountain West just in general. Like if I could list conferences, it would be Mountain West, Valley, and maybe the SoCon. But that's another kind of they're a very under the radar.
Yeah, and I'm going to another team that's pretty hot. I mean, soft spot for you for Illinois, but Maryland. They have Derek Queen. They're playing really well, and he's going to be a top 5 pick. He is awesome.
No, yeah. He's a huge he's not
a guard basically, but he's massive. Yeah,
he's not like a massive forward center. He's shorter. He's on the shorter side, but his just pure muscle mass, he can move people.
Yeah, he's like Jabari Smith Jr. in college, but he was but bigger. Like Jabari was a lot more finesse and jump shots and stuff like that.
Skinnier and
Queen just moves people out of the way. And just dunks the ball. It's absolutely absurd. Like he's not like Broome at all on because Broome is huge. On Auburn, but he's gonna have a pretty good NBA contract.
Because speaking of Auburn, I think Auburn is the best, because I want to segue into this. I think that Auburn is the best team in the country because of what they did when Broome was out.
Yeah,
and how
they kept going.
How they just kept on. It looks like they won, and it looks like they can. Like so many people are like we've seen with Illinois, especially in these past few games, when they didn't have Thomas Slavovicic, their center. How much it affects them and how much worse they play.
Yeah.
But with Auburn,
they literally look like a dunk contest out there. They all, I swear, every single day I see just a mixtape of Auburn this year, just throwing down crazy dunks, and they literally look like a high school team out there playing like that, even without the best center in the country. They continue to win games. They only have 1 loss, and they continue to just rip through all of college basketball.
Yeah, and Janiah Broome is one of these rare kind of college players that's been in college for 5 years now, and you don't see that a lot. Like that's the thing with Zach Edey and stuff. Like Zach Edey was great, but he was in college for so long that they're not getting NBA draft buzz, but they're so dominant in college. Like Drew Timme, all of these guys that have been really good on these really good teams and have made really far runs. Yeah, they don't get a lot of appreciation because they're older. But Janiah Broome is showing experience helps. He leads them in points, rebounds, assists, and blocks. Yeah, and he's 6'10"?
Yeah, assists. Believing in your team and assists as a center is pretty crazy.
Exactly. I mean, it's only 3 assists. They don't have a lot of assists. They have a lot of guys. Auburn is so good at they have a lot of guys. They have 6, I think, if I counted correctly, guys who average over 10 points a game. Yeah. Or because one of them's 10 on the dot. So they have a great guys who can just score at their own will. Yeah. Which makes them so scary because everyone, we've seen with, Illinois, I know that Illinois in the past few years have had great players, but when they're great players like Terrence Shannon or Io or Kofi have been out of the games, you see the difference in these teams. Yeah. With them, you see the difference in Purdue with Zach Edey. They're not last year they were they're winning the chip. This year they'll be a good team in March, but they're not going to do much. You know what I mean? So with Auburn, we thought that was the case with, or at least I did, with Janiah Broome, and then he's kind of said, yeah, that's just not true. We're the best team in the country, and it's not even close.
Yeah, after he went out after they looked really good in the Maui tournament, and he went out. I was like, man, they're gonna slide, but they're gonna be really good in the country. In the tournament, we'll see if they can stay ranked or anything like that. And they have really impressed me by the way that they just consistently just attack, and they're constantly winning these games against these really good teams. Also, the SEC is no joke.
They're
gonna have a gauntlet coming up for conference play.
That's why that's what the only thing that worries me about SEC teams is they're gonna do a lot of cannibalism, where they're gonna hurt a lot of teams.
I feel like a lot of those teams will still be ranked pretty highly because they know how difficult the schedule is.
Yeah. And my final two teams that are that kind of scare me is Duke, but they're really young. But Cooper Flag is Cooper Flag. What else do I need to say?
Yeah.
And Houston, I feel like Houston, they're not getting a lot of love because they started off the season really bad. But since then, they've been the traditional Houston team, great defensively, great 3-point shooting team. They don't have a crazy Marcus Sasser was kind of, I feel like, one of their better in recent years. Their better kind of signings. They don't have a crazy.
They had Jarris Walker as well.
Yeah, they don't have a bunch of crazy
freshmen.
They don't have a crazy score. Their leading scorer averages 13 points. They're not gonna have a dude who gives you 30 every night. They're gonna have a great team throughout, a great team that works together, and that's what Kevin Sampson, their head coach, that's what he has done such a great job.
He's built a great program out there.
Of doing. He doesn't have a crazy score. Last year he had Jamal Shed, who was a great defender, but they're not known for having the Dukes who have crazy scores or stuff like that.
Sasser was the last one for that.
Exactly.
His shot creating was definitely something that was highlighted.
Yeah.
Duke for sure. Obviously, everyone knows who Cooper Flag is, but they have a lot of other guys who are so young.
Exactly.
Con Knuppel, their center,
and then the guy from South Sudan.
Yeah,
I don't know how to say.
Knuppel's the guard, and then
I don't know how to say their center's name.
Yeah,
I don't want to say.
But he's huge and he's really young, and they all just play off of Flag, and he's so poised as an 18-year-old, and he continues to just everyone watched that Kentucky game in the beginning of the year when he turned the ball over twice in a row to lose the game. And I feel like a lot of casuals are going to be just remembering that come the tournament and be like, oh, he's not that good. But
that was their third or fourth game of the season.
Yeah, as a freshman who reclassed up, he's leading one of the best programs of all time in points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks. He's just doing something everyone knows. Everyone saw Zion at Duke because he would just dunk 35 times a game.
This guy doesn't. He doesn't do a lot of crazy flash. You see glimpses of dunks, but
Flag. He's got the athleticism, but a lot of Flag. It's not that flashy, and of course he scored 42 on Notre Dame, but he doesn't. He's not the one to just chuck it 30 times a game and try and score.
He's very efficient with his score.
He's gonna play team basketball, and he's gonna focus on winning. And the defense for me is the best part of his game. It's easier to count offensive stats, but you watch him out there, he's just constantly flying in the air, stealing, poking balls away, and blocking shots. And he's so impressive.
Yeah, I agree. And lastly, this will be our last segment of the day, but what teams do you think have a crazy high ceiling and a low, not a low floor, but a floor that is middle of the pack average?
Yeah, I'll start. Go back to Illinois.
That's exactly who I was gonna say.
They're very young, and it's gonna be based on the can the youth outwit the experience in one of these games. They're gonna need all the players to come through and shoot. Gonna need their top 5 pick projected guard to come through in the tournament over and over again.
Yeah, because you have these games against Northwestern.
I brought it up against Maryland. Where they got
you have
killed.
this game against Northwestern where you lose at Northwestern. Then you play Tennessee, a game you should have won. You lose by 2. Then you go to Oregon, and a then top 10 ranked team win by 30. Then you lose to USC at home. Then you lose to Michigan State, away. And then you get beat by 21 points against Maryland at home. So it's can they outplay themselves? Because I feel like with them, they're so young because they have so many guys that are this is their first kind of. Their best player, Kasper Jonas, is going to go to the draft. He's not coming back. Tomislav Ivicic is their center, and he's a sophomore, but it's his first year
he was
playing.
redshirt as a freshman. Yeah, didn't play.
Then they have Boswell, who's a great experienced guard. Trey White, who's a great experience. Then they have Will Riley, a freshman who reclassed. Then they have Gibbs Lawhorn, a sophomore. Reyes Johnson, a freshman. And then that's really kind of their lineup. But the thing with them is they have so much talent. Like, if you read me this talent just off paper, I would think they would be a top 10 team.
Yeah.
But the thing with them is they're, because of their youthness and how this is basically the only returning player from this team last year is Gibbs Lawhorn. Everyone else is new.
Yeah.
So they've basically these guys have never played with each other. So they're learning, and we saw them. They had a stretch where they looked like one of the best teams in the country.
Yeah.
And now they're kind of on the, who are you going to be? Are you going to be the Illinois that wins by 30, or are you going to lose by 21 at home? So that's the thing with them. That's why I think they're the biggest kind of hit or miss team, I feel like.
Yeah, another one for me, is that the one that you had was Illinois?
Yeah.
Another one for me is Bama.
I agree.
We've seen some good wins and a few losses that are pretty bad, but their best player, what's his name? The guard.
Marcus Sears.
Yeah, Sears, sorry. He got benched in one of their more recent games in the second half, and we've seen some inconsistent play from him. They were really, really good in the tournament last year, clearly just tearing through everybody and then losing in the Final Four. But, yeah, for them, I feel like it's all going to be up to Sears, and Sears is going to have the ball in his hands, and if he plays good, they're going to win, or they're going to have a really good chance of winning, and it's all going to be up to him if he can play consistent.
With them, sorry for cutting you off. With them, it's pace. They're one of the fastest paced teams. They score within like the first 7 seconds of the shot clock. So
Steve Nash.
Exactly. So they're with them. They go with how they're paced, and that's why their defense is so iffy, because it's so hard because they're running up and down. So their guys they're gonna get tired. And another team that, like, it pains me to say this, but Michigan State,
they're really good.
They're really good, but they can't shoot.
Nope.
Like that win against Illinois was a big win. But they cannot shoot the ball. So if that's what worries me is they're a great defensive team. You know, they're great, the free throw, all the stuff, but it's like they're stuck in the 80s and 90s where it's a lot more of a 2-point game, and now it's a 3-point game, and they're eventually threes are more than twos. Yeah. So are they gonna be able to knock down some threes, or are they gonna? I mean, obviously, you know, they're 17-2, they're number 7 in the country, so it's working. But when you get to March, you're not playing, you know, like a Minnesota, like all these teams that are not playing, that are not going to be in the tournament. You're playing these teams that know how to win and know how to play in March. So that's what I'm kind of interested to see with them.
Yeah, for them, if it's such a obvious weakness for them. I feel like they're just going to get exploited in March when they really like prep these guys for playing a singular opponent. And if they're not gonna be able to shoot, people are just gonna sag off, and there's gonna be no driving lanes for like Cohen Carr. You know he can do. He's so athletic.
Exactly.
And there's just not gonna be any room for Michigan State to get any creation.
Exactly. Yeah, I totally agree with that. But that's a wrap for this week's episode on the Sports Syllabus Show. Thanks for tuning in and joining the conversation. Don't forget to follow and subscribe, and share the show with your friends. Got a hot take or a question? Hit us up in the Instagram or in the comments. Until next time, stay hyped, stay active, and we'll see you back here for your next dose of the Sports Syllabus Show. Take care.
Thank you.